Having listened to former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, we're now being joined by one of the conveners of the June 12 Democracy Movement of Nigeria, Professor Anthony Kila, to discuss the key highlights of the interview. Kila is a professor of strategy and development. He also serves as the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies Director. He's a Lagos-based academic and he has a research institute offering international educational and professional training programs. Good morning, Professor Kila, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yes, quickly, please, can you help us with your own perspective on this interview with General Ibrahim Babangida that we've all just listened to? What are the key points for you?
Well, let me start by saying to Arise TV and to Ngozi's interview, in techniques of media and communication, this is what you call pace setting. It is true that this will dominate the public discourse in days to come. I think, allow me to call General Babangida IBB as a signature, and because those are one of his legacies. He's one of those Nigerians that invented, or through him, the idea of using initials. It was the first three-letter initials signature nationally accepted. Babangida's interview reveals who the man is. He's an epitome of Nigeria, of the Nigerian story. Babangida reflects the Nigerian story a lot, i.e., a country, a people that is very high on potential, rather low on achievement, and very high in tolerance and accommodation. When you listen to IBB talk, he says all the right things. He understands and supports restructuring. He gets the need to involve the public. He supports the market system. He appreciates qualified, connected, and capable leaders. But at the same time, just like the story of Nigeria, where the people are cerebral, charming, enduring, innovative, and enterprising, the result of the country itself does not reflect this grandness. So the potentials are high. Just like Nigeria, IBB himself seems to be shockingly, for somebody of such high potential, certainly tolerant and accommodating of low standards. The battles of Nigeria, from the battle from unity to that of a roaring economy, to that of a safe and prospering land, has been lost. At least it has not been won yet. And just as Nigerians accept less, Babangida stands to propagate that. And this is not blaming him, it is just reflecting on how the man embodies the paradox called Nigeria.
Okay, and let me start there. The battle for unity, and his submission was that Nigerians generally believe in oneness as a country, and that is why the calls for secession do not gain momentum. And that clamor perhaps may be dead on arrival. When he was responding to Ngozi's question on secessionist calls by Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho, do you agree with him that generally Nigerians still believe in oneness?
Oh, no, I do not agree with that secession. But I also think that he did not say that. What he said was that for the military, the unity of Nigeria was settled and non-negotiable. He referred to that military class. The anthropology of the military in the Nigerian context is a fascinating read. Because in the history and geography of Nigeria, the military is the only body that were able to create a monolithic Nigeria. They were all green. And they created a culture, the military culture, that helped them to be immune from the diversity, pluralism, and preferences that the rest of Nigeria had. This peculiarity of the Nigerian military was validated their claim to power. IBB talks amazingly, very well actually, in a very articulate way. He talks about the historical reason of the military coups of the 60s, starting from the genesis of it in Egypt. He forgot to, or he left out to mention though, the foreign influence that really identified in Africa with his diversity and his pieces then, that the only body, the only corpus capable of forming a monolithic leadership was the military in that period. So yes, for the military, especially for his own class of military, the Nigerian issue, the Nigerian unity is settled and non-negotiable. It is not so for a lot of people, and we shall go into that. It is my view that the identity issue in Nigeria, the ethnic issue, is actually an identity fraud perpetuated by the leaders and the elite. And we shall go how the people are. We should see how the people got involved in it.
All right, I mean, great insight. You know, you talked about the anthropology of the military, and I think an exciting read for that will be Ibb'S by Akitunde Akinkunmi. I mean, it had quite a powerful piece about the evolution of the Nigerian military itself, and how it takes that, you know, monolithic linear slant, but which is not very pluralistic. But I want to talk about the economy, and I want to talk about his reaction. You know, he sort of glorified SAP, which was quite a kick in the foot for a lot of economic watchers. I sort of said, you know what, if SAP had been followed, these are the things SAP will have done and that. And he did that while talking about the state of the economy today, like as though SAP was a silver bullet. I mean, I'm sure you want to expatiate on that area.
Yes. You see, again, when we talk about very high on potential and low on result, the structural adjustment program, the SAP, is an example of that. I urge those who can to read the papers that introduce the structural adjustment program. Amazing read, full of promises. And we must say this, because IBB himself has had occasion to say that we have to believe that nobody set out to destroy Nigeria. Everybody was doing their best, he said. And I add to him, their best was not good enough. So the structural adjustment program was something conceived to liberalize the market, to increase production, encourage exports, and allow more trade. Fantastic intention. But the reality is that when you judge intention, promise, plan with output, that is where we fall. And, you know, and that brings in question of competence. Because again, when I say IBB is a Nigerian story, one of the reasons why IBB embodies the Nigerian paradox is that we're high on intention, promises, we're low on implementation, low on results, tolerating and accommodating of low standards. That is the point. I have had occasion to listen to one of the some of the lead facilitators of the SAP, the SAP program, and many of them have said that what they intended to do was not what we did. There are reasons for that. You can do a whole program, a whole seminar on that. But the truth is, as you have said, as a good media communication person, you point out in shorthand, intention does not match result. The SAP, the Structural Adjustment Program, SAP, was to be a paradise. We ended up on a bumpy road to hell.
Well, Professor Kila, two quick things. When Ngozi asked General Babangida a question about corruption, he said very clearly that under his own administration, he jailed people who stole just about 313,000 naira. But today, under this administration, that people who stole billions are working freely. In other words, he was saying that he did a better job fighting corruption than President Buhari. Do you agree with that? And then he also made a point about, what the character of the next president of Nigeria should be. And he said this should be persons in their 60s. And that he has in his mind about 3 persons. I know you are not a mind reader, but, do you agree with him that persons who are above 70 are useless and should just go and sit at home and not bother about the Nigerian presidency?
Well, I do not think they're useless, but I do firmly believe, though, that they need to find another role in the society. Quite frankly, with the situation we have today in the world, the economic, the technology, the globalization thing, it is my view that people above 70 should be involved in other kind of activities, not the rigorous act of government. So to that point, I agree with IBB. When you say I'm not a mind reader, I try to read his mind. When he described the profile of the possible person, I thought he was talking about you, Ruben Abachi. Maybe you're one of the 3 people he's talking about. Onto the issue of corruption. Yes, what he said is true. He actually did that. And because he's been diplomatic and because he's speaking the Nigerian way of being tolerant and accommodating of low standard, he has not clearly said one thing he should say, i.e., this government is doing very badly on corruption, which is one of their key indexes. They're rather low on achievement. And there are reasons for it. The method is wrong. That is the problem. The performance of this government, this administration on corruption, is not because they're not doing anything at all. Let's be very careful. It is just about text in context. Because it was a major flagship, a cardinal point of the administration, a signature of the leader of the coalition that got into government, expectations were high. When you raise expectations very high, heavens be with you about the result.
At every point, at every opportunity he had, he praised the Nigerian people as being resilient, hardworking, people who know what they want and will stand for it. But I want to go back to the qualities of the Nigerian president he says he's visualizing. They look very basic. Someone who is vast in economy, someone who has a friend in every part of the country, someone who can talk to the people or talk with the people. Yet it remains a mirage. Why is this so?
Well, 2 things about that. Number one, IBB is right about the way he described Nigerian people. He has given me a softball to directly correct him today. When he talked about Nigeria, he said they. He says they. I would like to tell IBB, appeal to IBB and the rest of Nigerians to learn to say we. The expression they, these Nigerians, you know the way Nigerians are, which we say, is a wrong expression that comes from the colonial mentality that describes the natives that way, extracting the people out of it. So let me say that. But yes, he's right about what he says about Nigerians, because yes, Nigerians are everything he said, creative, enduring. The problem, which we must say, is that when situation comes into a community, a communal, collective situation, leadership matters more than individual. And the truth and the problem of Nigeria is that the leadership does not correspond directly with the leader. We have greater people and lower leaders in Nigeria. It's a big malice that we need to treat. The story of Nigeria is that of the people who individually were fantastic and collectively were not good. So we have the story and the culture or the history of individual triumph and collective tragedy or disaster. When we pick Nigerians one by one Nigeria is a great man. More Nigerians becomes a disaster. And the reason for that is leadership. Nigerians are not getting the leader that matches the weight of individuals. Capable, and here we go, IBB describes the system. Capable of managing such complex, volatile, creative, fermenting system requires somebody who's really above par. He has to be dynamic, knowledgeable, connected, capable, articulate, and knowing. We're not very gifted with that.
Right. I mean, I'm not a mind reader, but I'm sure probably from that description, Nigeria might be looking for Caesar's wife to lead it in the next election. But real quickly, he, in a way, put his heart in the ring when it comes to this conversation on restructuring. And he went back to tap on an area we don't look at. And he says, Nigerians have not been able to reach a consensus on what restructuring should be like. You know, in other parts of the interview, he talked about the talk shop. So he talks about variegated narratives, but sort of like a confluence on what restructuring should be like. And that was his tap out on that conversation. He left that conversation hanging. And there was another part he talked about the fact that I don't leave my friends. You know, I'm very close and loyal to my friends. And the name Ahmad Vasta popped in my head. Those two questions.
Yes. Well, I must say that amazingly, IBB, not amazingly for him, amazingly for public figure, IBB was genuinely sincere in that interview. A lot of things he said are consistent with what he has said over decades, and indeed what he says in private. It was very sincere, very straightforward, but it was also very diplomatic. He was announcing. I disagree with him. He's economical of the truth because he doesn't want to rock boat. When he says Nigerians are not clear on what restructuring is. He described restructuring himself. What people want from the language study, from the grammar or syntax of the word itself, restructuring is to reshape, to reform the way the country is run. That is part one. What is restructuring? Reconfigure the political structure of the country. Part two of the question, in what way do you want to reconfigure it, what they call restructuring? Most people agree that they are looking for a more decentralized government, a government where the position of power is turned upside down, less to the central, called federal, and more to the peripheries. You can then go to the advanced level, part C of the question, to say, do people want regional or do they want more state? And you can go still to the more advanced, to part D, to say, do they want nations to be very independent towards a confederation or total separation, or do they want it to be still a very truly federated union? It is not true. And I think those who say, amazingly...
Hello? Hello, Professor Kila? Okay. Okay, looks like that is frozen there. I was going to ask him about, what the former president said about the security situation in the country. You know, he said that the military is not overwhelmed, but that it is overstretched. You know, and if it is overstretched, he didn't give us, you know, in what particular sense the Nigerian military is overstretched. Well, I understand Anthony Kila is back with us. Professor Kila, sorry, we lost you for just a few seconds. If you may just continue with what you were saying.
Okay. Oh, good to be back. I was saying earlier on that IBB, who is definitely not that sort of person, because he has lent his voice today to empower, not endorse, but to echo the voice of those people who say restructuring is not clear. Let me say to IBB that that is nonsense. Restructuring is not difficult to understand, and people who say they don't get it, I argue that they're not being forthright about what they're saying. They're not being totally honest about it. They're being mischievous, rather. Well, to the question of security, yes.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead. Well, apparently you had me when we lost connection with you, yes.
Yes, you were going to ask about the question of security.
Yes, please go ahead.
IBB is a loyalist. He's a true establishment man. Let me read his mind. He's not pleased with this administration. He's not pleased with the direction of the country. But because of the man IBB is, he's not an activist shouting critic that will say, that will give marks to the government. Whatever those in administration think of IBB, is doing its best to be a statesman, a patriot that does not shout against the sitting government publicly. But the truth of the matter is, the security is not going well, and he knows that. The people are, yes, overstretched, underpaid, overused, ill-equipped, but I do think that we're still not getting enough from the institution. The story of the Nigerian security apparatus, from the military to the police and the Secret Service, is that of an overused people, underused, ill-managed institution. And I think we need to review that. We've been saying that the security apparatus need a big overhaul, but sooner or later somebody will listen to that. And IBB knows that. He didn't give you the answer you wanted because he does not want to directly criticize the administration and his colleagues in the military.
Professor Kila, as brief as you can, please. Your thoughts on what he said about June 12. He said he talked about Maradonic engineering around the June 12 election, which prevented a coup d'etat.
That Maradonic expression, more than anybody, he carries the burden of the worst legacy he has. For everything he has done in trust and his intelligence, the June 12th episode is a stain on his career and his legacy, and I don't know how he's going to watch it.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Anthony Kila, for joining us and for your perspective on the interview with General Ibrahim Babangida. I'm sure in the days ahead there will be other perspectives. Already, we're seeing that the social media is on fire. If we can use that phrase, different analysis, other perspectives. But thank you for helping us to set the tone.